Hey there, how's it going? My name's Adrian. This is my documentation series or documentary series where I go over building an AI automation agency from scratch. This is day 10. Day 10 of actually recording. It's actually been about 3 weeks since I started this. Technically like 3 months because I registered an LLC way back. But yeah, I'm going to go over basically the system build I built for my first client. So in the previous video, I celebrated winning $1,000 client through Upwork, which is awesome. Initially, the client was asking for a billable hour rate at like $40 or something like that. But since he's new to the platform, I'm also new. We just negotiated in the chats, and it landed up being $200 for a leads list I would produce for him, and then $1,000 for the actual make.com automation I would hand over to him. And in this video, I just wanted to go over the actual automation that I've built for my client. So I'm going to transition into showing you the system that I've got going on here. So this is the make.com automation. And the first one here, if we go into edit, we can look here. And then we've got a second automation here. So how this basically works is that I've got a simple Google Sheets spreadsheet, and I've just removed a lot of information because I actually recorded this video last night, and then I revealed like some public information about people, and then YouTube wasn't happy about it, so it took it down, which is unfortunate. But just imagine this has real data. So my client would send over a spreadsheet with just this information, yeah? So the LLC name, the county, the person registered it. So we've got John Doe, which is an example. Please, YouTube, don't remove this video again. Some city, New York, and the zip code 9999, right? Which is also made up. And my job is to build an automation that would basically fill in the rest of this information, right? So we've got some search string. I'll touch on this a bit later, but fill out the rest of the information. John Doe, he's 64, he's born in 1960. His current location is 123 New York, and then emails and phone numbers, basically, right? So this automation that I built with make.com, very simple automation at a surface level. We got the first automation or first scenario here, actually. What this scenario does, actually, let me take it back a bit and try to explain this. So I've got two scenarios. The first scenario will go over the results I have in here that my client has provided. So just this information. It will go over each one of them and basically produce some sort of JSON structure that I can send to my Appify scraper, which is this scraper. And this scraper will get a bit of extra information about users, like the information I would provide. Then we have a second scenario, which is actually just using a hard-coded one, but we would put a little, this module here. It will listen to the results of the scraper, and then it will update the Google Sheet to include that extra information. Not a very complex system, but it is pretty straightforward, and it's fantastic because I've learned a lot about make.com from building this particular system. So we can go over it quickly. So watch new rows basically is just a row iterator. It'll go over each row one at a time. I'm jumping to, but one at a time. So the whole row, it'll read that information. And then the next row here, this will update that row as well and add a bit of information. So I've just got this thing here that basically says, for this row here, I'm going to include this search field. So John Doe, semicolon, space, the city, right? Some city, comma, space, the state and the zip code. So that's pretty much there. The reason why I have that is we need a reference to look up later in the next scenario. So I'm just preemptively storing some sort of identifier that I can look up later. And I'll touch on that a bit later. Then we use an aggregator. So the thing about Google Sheets is it produces one item at a time, I believe. Let me just go here, explain flow. So yeah, it does one item at a time through your scenario. However, if we want to bundle all the items, say we have 50 rows in here, we want to bundle them all into one big bundle. This is what the aggregator does. It basically stacks everything and produces a little nicely packaged container of information. You can imagine as I've got some matchsticks. I'm passing you a matchstick every time, but then this guy will basically collect all those matchsticks and put them in a box and then give you the box. So you don't have to receive one matchstick at a time. You just get the box of matchsticks, which is awesome. Then for each matchstick within the box, we just pull out the information, which is the row number, the full name, city. That's basically, we're looking at each matchstick, and I don't know why I'm using matchsticks, but I'm just rolling with it now. We pull out this information. We basically destructure information from a row, and then once we destructure it, we iterate over it. So now we're pulling the matchsticks out the box and we're going through each matchstick and pulling one out, right? So this is what this iterator does. And then that iterator will basically transform each matchstick into, I don't know, a different looking matchstick. I don't know, that's a bad example, but we basically produce a string that looks like this, right? Just one with the quotes and a comma at the end. And what we do is we combine this together. I don't have a run yet I could show you, but we combine this together to produce a string that looks like this with a comma at the end, and it will produce a whole bunch of items that are pretty much like that and send it to Appify. So this little JSON thingy, it will produce a wrapper with name and then all the row items in here, and it'll just basically produce this JSON without this guy. So very simple, fairly complex if you're new to make.com, but also simple. A lot of hacks, I guess, with basic data manipulation. I think doing like set multiple variables and iterators like this, and then doing this thing, it's really hacky. And I've come to realize the limitations of Make, which is quite. It's quite limiting. And I realize why people jump over to N8N. I'm sure N8N solves this problem a bit differently. I don't know N8N, so I'm taking a bit of a guess, but I'm sure it does. This is a very simple workflow, right? So we kick off the scraper here. It'll run. You see I've got some past runs here. And we bill $7 for 1,000 results. So this is just a few cents. I don't know where the cost is, 14 cents right here. And then once this automation is complete, it basically says, I can say, hey, this automation is complete. Let me notify make.com with the webhook. And what that does is this watch actors is basically that webhook notification. It will receive the data set, which is, if we go to runs, I don't want to show you this, but the data set is basically the data within one run, the outcome. It's just a little ID that looks kind of like that, and we consume that. And again, Appify, I believe, if we go here, we can explain it. It will also do one item at a time, and that's why we're doing this array aggregator. So it combines everything and then iterates over it. So we receive one matchstick, put it in a matchbox, hand the matchbox over to the iterator. The iterator takes each matchstick out the matchbox. I suppose these are actually redundant. We don't actually need them, but I'm not going to modify this workflow. It works. We don't have to make it. We're not in the business of making things super efficient. I don't know why I actually did that, but once we have the items from the scenario, and what those items look like is this additional information, right? So if we go back here, it's got the first name, last name, age, blah, 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 emails, and phone numbers, right? So that information we've got there. So if we come here, we need to update a certain row with extra information. We can't just add it. I need to, this row number 2, actually need to provide additional information, right? So I need to know the location of where John Doe is. So how do you solve that problem? Well, we solve that problem by placing a little reference, a lookup reference here in this first scenario. And in the second scenario, we come back here and we do a search. So we look for that data, and it's the given input. So when we sent off our input to Apify, let's go to JSON with this information, Apify returns that as what we queried, right? So it'll provide that as a response. Unfortunately, you can't add like additional information here, such as meta, and you can store your own like row ID or something, right? Unfortunately, you cannot do that. You can only provide information within the schema. So what is in here? And you have to be creative to work around that, right? To use that data. So we get the input given, which is, like I said, it is one of these items here. And we look up the row. So we just limit it to one result because there only should be one result. We get the row ID. And then from here, we can actually, from that row number that we got here, we can then update the additional information. So first name, last name, age, all this extra information. And that's pretty much it. That is the workflow. It took me about, I think, 6 to 8 hours to build out, primarily because I do not understand Make.com, and I've learned a lot of Make.com, how Make.com operates and stuff within this video. So it's been an awesome learning experience. This is ultimately $1,000 system, right? I've managed to build and sell this for $1,000. I hope in the future we'll be able to build workflows like this a lot quicker. I think there was a bit of a learning curve for me. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. This was an automation I've got for my Upwork clients. It is $1,000 a pop, which is amazing. I would have not realized you could build something like this for $1,000, but yeah, it's incredible. This is such a simple system. If you were to write this with Python code, it would basically be like 25 lines of code, probably, maybe like 50, because you have to cater for this scenario here. And if you're working with CSV files, not Google Sheets, you have to do OAuth integrations and stuff like that. But this is a very simple workflow. And the fact that you can build this out and sell it to people who need automations like this, it just blows my mind. So I'm looking forward to the next build and documenting, explaining what I've got going on here. So if you've liked this video, please like it. Stay tuned for the next video. Hope to show you what I've got going next. Take care.